Hey guys, in our last video we talked about putting together the different parts, your different tracks, laying down the different tracks if you wanted to do 2 guitar tracks, if you wanted to do the quad tracking, panning 2 left and panning 2 right. We've talked about adding bass in your tracks, we've had different types of drums, but the one thing that I realized we haven't really talked a lot about or even much about yet is the actual song sequence, putting together the different parts of the song. Somebody in a recent forum was asking a question about how do you put together the song? What are the different, how do you build the song out? And the answer is there's no real, tried and true method other than just what do you want to put in your song. Most songs have your basic introduction, you'll have different parts of verse, you'll have pre-choruses, you'll have choruses, the intro, the outro, you'll have solos in between. In Easy Drummer, there's even a tool in there in Song Creator that helps you build out the different parts of your song. It'll help you, sequence out A, B, A, kind of lays it out and all that, which translates to verse and chorus and all that kind of stuff. But to be honest with you, I kind of just build it out however I want it in my head. How does the song sound when you're putting it together? Is your verse too long to the point where when you add a chorus in, it just doesn't sequence, it doesn't sound right? What I do is I play it over and over, and as you've seen before, when I'm building the song, I'll build it in Easy Drummer so that I can see it, I can lay it out. It's a lot easier to do it that way than it is to actually play the drums and try to write it out. I build it in Easy Drummer because I can see the sequence of how the song lays out. I can kind of count my parts. Okay, I've got 2 verses here, I've got a chorus here. And so basically writing the song, what I'll do is I'll start with kind of a, for lack of a better term, hook, I guess. Something that I really like in the song, so I've got my guitar loaded up. But I'll start off with something that kind of gets in my head. And recently there was a song kind of working on recently where I kind of have this, I wasn't sure if it was a verse or a chorus, but it was kind of a... So I had that, and I just kept kind of noodling with that a little bit. And so you can have your verse just kind of repetitive, however you want to do it. I notice a lot of songs, rock and metal songs, will have a lot of repetition in them. A lot of the 80s music had a lot of repetition, and it seems like more of the metal songs today have a little less repetition. People are getting creative, even with their guitar solos. Their backing music will be a different verse than, say, the verse or chorus or intro or outro, which I think is cool. I think it's creative and it really changes things up. You don't want to put so much in it that you lose the structure and kind of continuity of your song, but enough to where it makes it interesting and you're not losing people in that same repetitive monotone blah 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 kind of stuff. So for this song, I was kind of thinking that my verse and my chorus would change up a little bit, and so I was kind of going, and then after I did that for a couple of verses, I would go down and go. So now kind of what I'm playing with is, let me set this up real quick for you. You can kind of hear, sorry I had it set up. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll do an intro, and I like all sorts of different, there's all sorts of different tools and stuff. If you're using, Pro Tools or Studio One or GarageBand, all the different kind of stuff out there. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can do for an intro. I usually give myself a little bit of an intro, and I'll show you here in Studio One how I lay it out. But I like to give myself a different intro, which leads into kind of my riff or my hook that goes into my verse. A lot of times I use my verse as my hook. Okay, so in here you can see where I've created my intro. If you look down here in the Easy Drummer, you'll see it starts off here. This gray area is where I put my intro, and I use my counting tool. I'll use this down here, my pre-count, so that I can start off right on the when it starts. It starts right up, so you can see it kind of goes right into it. So I'll start from the beginning. And then I go into this song. So as I was talking a couple seconds ago there, I always like to start off with an intro that gives me a little, kind of a unique start to the song, usually kind of slow or maybe even, a little gloomy or doomy, whatever you want to say, kind of give it something unique to start with, and then I kind of like to start into the song. There's all sorts of different stuff that you can use. You can use a drum, start with a different kind of a drum pattern. Like I've started off with a slow drum, and then I've worked into a kind of a faster next part of the song as I work into, you can see here, this part here in the blue here, at about 15 to about 19 or so, kind of starts off with that fast intro, and then here I get right into where the yellow part is here. This is where my hook is that we were talking about a little while ago. So you can do any kind of intro you want. You can use all sorts of different tools and stuff. A lot of times you can use the loops in Studio One too to create kind of different sounds and all sorts. They have so many different files that you can pick from that kind of give a different kind of unique introduction. So all sorts of different stuff that you can grab in here for your introduction, to start your song off. I'll usually do a couple, maybe one or two verses, and then go into my chorus. And I like to again mix up my choruses too, so it's not just one kind of pattern. So for example, I'm kind of doing a and then back into. So here you can see that, and as we talked before, the gray is my intro. The blue here is where I come in and I have kind of that fast second part intro that gets set up for the verse. And the yellow parts here that you can see are my verse. This first yellow one here is instrumental, and then we get into the two different verses here. This is, verse one, and then we get into the blue here, which starts into my chorus. So you can count through here. The yellows, each one, is a verse, and then the blues here go through and get into my chorus. So if you look across, you'll see the different areas. So again, here I come through my verse 2, and then come down here into my verse 3, and then the blues here get into the chorus. And so as you kind of play through, you can hear the and even hear it go into the purple area right in there gets into the kind of that bridge that leads into my solos. And you'll see here I actually use my verse
for my solo, and then the two blue here represent the next chorus. And so for my solos, as I was talking before, I'll actually use the first part of my solo as my verse backing, and then the second part of my solo gets right into the chorus backing for my solo, and then goes right back into verse 3.
So it's, you know, kind of got a little bit of a difference where in the first one I'm going, and then the second part of the chorus I'm going, just so it changes it up just enough. So those are the different parts. I always like to, in my solos a lot of times, I'll use my verse and my choruses sometimes, or sometimes I'll create my own, new kind of backing, if you will. So sometimes, let's say in a solo, I could use that for, you know, a couple of verses and then go into the chorus. So I'm switching up my solos. So the solo is playing to my verse, and then right after that, immediately it's going into the chorus backing, and I'm playing my solos over those different types so that it mixes it up, it changes, and it gives it kind of a different feeling. You're changing the feeling of the song, you're changing the tone, because in one part of the solo you're playing to the verse, and in the chorus it just has a different feel. You can kind of tell there's a little more dark sound to the, whereas the chorus has almost a little more melodic. So your solos are, when you're playing to your chorus, you can almost add a little bit more. So anyway, you can really contrast the sound. I like to contrast the difference, and I'll include a bunch of my songs in my sound click here and the things, so you can kind of hear how, if you want an example. But I really like to mix it up a lot with my verse and my chorus, where my verse is generally a little more aggressive and has more attack, like the, and then my chorus is a little more melodic. So the solos will kind of follow suit. So, again, there's no real, law that says you have to follow anything. You'll notice that a lot of bands will kind of mix it up, the pace, the length of your song, all sorts of different things. There's no real, standard. So play around with it and, kind of feel it out. How does the song sound? And length of the song is a whole other thing too. It really depends on what you want to do with your music, but I never even look at the length of my songs. Sometimes my songs are 5 minutes. Sometimes by most standards, it's a long song. Some of my songs are 7 minutes long because I'll add a really long solo in. And again, I'm not using my music to do anything like try to get real big or anything. I do it for me and for people that like to, listen to it.
So that's pretty much my approach to putting a song structure together. Again, as you kind of look through this here, you can kind of see, I always go back to my Easy Drummer and kind of look. And then what I'll do is, as you can see up here, I've started to lay down my tracks. And again, if you remember from the last video there, 2 videos done with one type of amp, pan, left, right, 2 done with another. And I'll do more recordings too. I'll try different amps. I'll try some of my Marshalls, my JCM800, my JVM, my DSLs, and really kind of just test it out and see what sounds best. And then I'll play, once I lock in my drums, like you see down here, I'll play it over and over until I really kind of feel the flow of the song. Does it make sense? Do I need to change anything? Is there too much here, not enough there? Does the, bridge go on too long? Are the solos too long? And really just get a feel for how the song comes together. So again, just play with it, see what what works for you, and your song. There's again no law that says you have to do this, or no rule that says that you have to have a certain kind of structure. So just play along with it and play around with it a little bit and see what works for you. So thanks a lot for watching. If you have any questions or would like to know anything, just let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thanks again for watching.